Hey guys, Ed from Paranormal Inc. Ohio, back at it again with another podcast episode. Tonight's podcast episode is about a very infamous house in Boise, Idaho, called the Chop Chop House, or the Boise Murder House. Now, before I get going with this, I'm going to have to give you a warning. The following story is not for the faint of heart. This terrible crime in Idaho may have happened decades ago, but it still remains to be one of the most disturbing things to happen in this community. Every town has its own unique urban legends, including tales of crime and murder. Despite the fact that Idaho is commonly seen as a safe place to live, our state definitely has a handful of disturbing accounts. The crime that happened in Boise's murder house is sure to turn your blood cold. If you currently or have ever lived in Boise, chances are that you've heard about the disturbing events that occurred at what is commonly referred to as the murder house. Some even refer to this place as the Chop Chop House, in reference to the terrible things that went down here so many years ago. The house is still standing today, and walking by it, you might not realize anything out of the ordinary about it, except that it is old and hasn't aged well. However, once you hear about the crime that took place here, you'll never look at the house the same way again. On June 30th, 1987, at 805 West Linden Street, was the scene of a terrible murder. The crime may have been over 30 years old, but that doesn't make it any less harrowing. The story goes that three men got into a fight on that summer night. One of the men, Preston Murr, was shot in the shoulder as a result. He attempted to run away from the other two men. Murr ran up to a neighbor's house and banged on the door. The neighbor did not come out, but he did call the police. Unfortunately, the police didn't show up until way later, after it was too late. The next morning, the neighbor had to call the police for a second time. When the police showed up, they discovered trails of blood on the street and blood smeared across the neighbor's door. The blood gave police reason to obtain a search warrant and enter the house, where the neighbor heard an altercation coming from. Once inside, the police discovered the horrid crime scene of Murr's murder. The two men had dragged Murr back after he escaped and fatally shot him to death. Then, in an act of excessive brutality, they dismembered the body in order to dispose of it. The men drove out to Brownlee Reservoir near the Oregon and Idaho border to dispose of the body. The body wasn't recovered in the reservoir until a week later. However, the two men, Darren Cox and Daniel Rogers, were immediately apprehended and charged with murder. To this day, it is unclear why the confrontation between the three men even broke out. The details are murky about why Murr was gruesomely murdered, according to court documents. The three men had been hanging out earlier that evening, trying to locate Rogers' recently stolen guns. They drove around Boise trying to find the apartment of the person they believed stole the guns. The trio returned to the house on Linden Street around midnight, and that is when the deadly altercation broke out. Both Cox and Rogers went to trial for the murder of Preston Murr. Cox was given a lesser sentence because he complied with police and gave details about the murder. Overall, he spent just 6 years in prison before being released. The jury deemed Rogers guilty of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life behind bars. He is currently serving his life term at Idaho Correctional Center and was last denied parole back in 2005. Over the years, numerous people have lived in the murder house. Several people rented it out during the 90s, and the house even spent time as a Boise State University frat house in the 2000s. Some people have come forward and said that there is something very evil, something very bad inside the house. That even in the basement, specifically in the basement, there is something horrible. They see shadow people, dark figures. They feel doom and gloom inside the entire house. But only do they feel the whole force of true evil and being so terrifyingly scared is when they are in the basement. Knocks, they can hear scratches. People have had scratches put on them, bite marks, burns, you name it, it's happened. A lot of people don't like to come forward and say that they've had any type of paranormal encounter in Boise because it's a very tight-knit area where the house is located. But many have went and many have come back and said that there is something very bad inside the house in Boise, Idaho, inside the Chop Chop house, the very bad place where a very bad murder took place, where 3 men and 2 men walked out, 1 man did not. He was brutally murdered and then dismembered to where his body could be hidden in the reservoir, to where only a week later did they discover his remains. And now the house is stained with that horrible murder. Some people even say to this day why it's just boarded up and nobody can stay in it is because of the paranormal activity inside the home. That something bad still lingers there, like they all say. Is Murr's spirit stuck there for eternity because of the way he died, the tragic way of his killing, the gruesome brutality of it? Is Murr stuck at the house in Boise for eternity? I don't know. I would love to be able to go and investigate the home just to see what's going on there. In typical cases of murder houses, things do happen afterwards because the place is just stained with that horrible incident. Which will bring me to tomorrow night's episode of another infamous murder house and another haunting that takes place where it happened. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. I know it was quick. I read this and doing research and things for tonight's episode, and I have never heard about the Chop Chop house. And I read this story and I was like, oh my God, these guys would love this story. So it is the Chop Chop house, the murder house in Boise, Idaho. It jumped out at me. And I'd say, I got to make an episode about this. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. You can always go to paranormalincohio.com. That will take you to the main business page. There you can check out some old ghost hunts and ghost stories. You can check out our crystals and all the powers that they hold that we have for sale. You can also check out all sage bundles we have for sale for all cleansing needs. You can also check out the bracelets, the pendants, the necklaces, and all the jewelry I make to go along with the crystals. You go from there to go to Paranormal Inc. Ohio group. That is our group page on Facebook. There we talk about all things paranormal. You give me ideas for shows. I do the research and I make the episode. Sometimes I have you guys on there. Sometimes I give you a shout out. Because I do appreciate each and every one of you for listening and even, commenting back, letting me know how the show is. And by all means, guys, if you think I'm doing something wrong, if you just don't like the show, comment on here. Tell me what you think is wrong. Tell me what you would like to see change. And I'll do it. I do this for you guys. And I love each and every one of you. From there, you can go to Paranormal Inc. Ohio on TikTok and YouTube. There I am putting full episodes of the podcast on YouTube. On TikTok, you can check out some partial podcast episodes and ghost hunts and ghost stories. You can also check out ghost hunts and ghost stories on YouTube as well. And of course, you can check out the Paranormal Inc. Ohio podcast on all podcast formats. Every single night, there will be a new podcast episode. They will be at 10 p.m., except for Thursday and Friday nights. Those will be on at 8 p.m. Because Thursday night, I go live at 10 p.m. on Facebook to do a talk into the paranormal and a ghost story. And Friday nights are our Fear Friday lives at 10 p.m. on Facebook. There we go, an in-depth conversation about the paranormal, and I do live investigations there. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode, guys. Thank you so very much for checking it out, and you'll hear me on the next one. Thanks. Bye, everybody.